evening, everyone, and welcome to World of Sport TV. I am your host, Barry. We have Billy and Steve in the background, and the amazing Joe, the gentleman, willing to come on and answer some questions about his professional career of being a snooker player and how it all started and how he ended up getting into the career. So really looking forward to this. Very quickly, though, please hit that subscribe button if you enjoy what you see. There's a membership option. And as of some unbelievable news today, I tweeted Alan Shearer and said, will you sign this? He said yes. So as soon as we hit 1,000 paying members, we will give away the testimonial Alan Shearer replica shirt with his signature on it away. And I can't believe I've just said that because it's my pride and joy. So please sign up if you want to become a member and be within a chance of winning it. Right, without any further ado, let's bring everybody in. Hello, guys. How are you doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. How are we doing?
I'm good, you. And let's bring the special guest in. Thank you, Joe, so much for coming on.
No problem.
It's amazing. It's like, yes, another celebrity. I love it.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I was the first one, Joe.
Okay, Steve was obviously the first one. Yes, I better get that out there.
Set the tone. Set the tone.
He did. It wasn't very, very big bar to fill, to be fair. But we've had Les Ferdinand on. That was great. So you're up there with that.
Oh, not about that.
Definitely.
No, we all know you're a legend, mate.
Exactly.
Don't be too humble about it.
I love it. So, Joe, let's start off, how your career started, if you don't mind. How did you get into the game? How old were you when you first picked up a cue? And how did you fall in love with the game?
Well, I think I first picked up a cue when I was about 5 years old, but the cue was probably no bigger than like a little ruler you'd have at school. Like my dad,
Yes.
He sort of saw that I was sort of fascinated because it was on TV all the time in the 80s. And my mum and dad sort of noticed that I was fascinated every time it come on the TV. My dad's not really a sporty person, but he liked watching snooker. Mm-hmm. And they sort of noticed that I had a bit of a fascination for it. So they got me a little like 4-foot table, 5-foot table on my 5th Christmas or something. And then from then I used to they'd wake up to the sound of balls going in the pockets at like the age of 5, 6. And then that was all it was really. And then he took me to a snooker club when I was 9 in Ealing. It was actually Neil Folds' club at the time. And I went to a little Saturday coaching club. And I sort of took to it quite quick, started to play all right and got better, started to make a few breaks, put a few balls. But then it really all changed for me when my parents left London and we moved to Cambridgeshire. There was no sort of snooker clubs. So my dad built a room in the garden, which is now like an annex. But at the time it was like a games room. Mm-hmm. And then from then it was just like non-stop. I was sort of within 6 months of that, I'd made my first century and, all sorts. And then it the love sort of just grew and grew and grew. And I sort of knew from then on really that I wanted to make a career and a living out of it.
How old was you when you made your first century?
I made my first century in practice when I was 11 before I left London, but I made my first competitive one when I was 14, like in a sort of league competition, league match, yeah.
Wow. That's the dream though, isn't it? Just your dad building you a games room. I never had that when I was younger.
Yeah. But I think it's not until like you sort of, I didn't really appreciate it at the time. I appreciated like the amount of effort that went into it and the cost, but when you're that age, you just want to be in a snooker club environment. You want to just, everyone's going on and people are playing the fruit machines and people are playing for like a few quid here and there. You play for the lights, your mates are all there. So I never really, really appreciated like the thing of having the room. If I had my time all over again, I think I'd put a lot more hours in from the age of like 14 to 16, 17 maybe.
Instead of pinching those shandies.
Yeah, instead of watching people play fruit machines, yeah.
I love it. So you turned professional in 1992. How did that come about?
Well, back then, snooker was sort of like being run terribly. So they basically went skint. So they just opened the game up. So anyone that had like a spare 800 quid could become professional.
Oh, wow.
So that's what they'd done, sort of get some money in. So I had that not been the case, I wouldn't have turned professional, but you never knew when they was going to close it up again. So my dad said to me, we'll pay the money to get your professional ticket just in case they close it up, even though he knew I wasn't ready. I was still like in full-time education. I'm one of the few players that sort of stayed in school and I went on to do A-levels. So even though I turned pro in 92, I didn't really enter all the tournaments. So sort of like, I think there was like 10 events and I was entering like 5 or 6 of them because I was still sort of studying and whatever. But then from like 94, 95, I sort of went really full time. And then I sort of started to climb the rankings. I think after the first 2 years, I was still ranked like in the mid 300s. But then I sort of jumped rapidly. Then I went from like 320 something to sort of in the top 96 within the space of 2 years.
How did you find out about obviously having to pay this fee? Was you approached, or was it just simply advertised out?
Yeah, I think like in the snooker world, I was sort of playing. I was playing in pro-ams and things like that. Then it was like every weekend. I was doing all right. I wasn't useless. I was good. I was county champion at sort of 16 under junior and senior level. So I was good. Just wasn't. I knew I wasn't ready to be professional. But every pro-am, it was all everyone was talking about. There were some guys that turned pro that hadn't even made a century. It was just their dream of, people just sit in snooker clubs all day wanting to be a professional. All of a sudden they had the chance. and there was like 700 and something professionals at Blackpool. And, without being rude, probably 400, 500 of them shouldn't have even bothered. They just wanted to just follow the dream.
Yeah. Reminds
the
me
class
of
92 is a special year, isn't it, as well? For the class of 92, it's like a special year for snooker players turning professional. You got four of the greatest players ever to live, all joining the same year, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And there's one, I don't know if you're referring to this one, but Steve Lee was another one who's like been forgotten a little bit because of his ban and whatever. But at the time, Steve Lee was part of the Higgins, Williams, and Ronnie sort of Fab Four, and then there was lots of other players like myself. We was never quite as good as them, but they're exceptional. They're going to be the greatest players ever lived, probably three of them. So we was just a little bit underneath them for all the way through our careers. From under 15, under 17 level right to even to this day. But that was a special group of players, and there was, like I say, there was like another half a dozen of us that are still sort of hanging around, sort of near the top of the rankings now.
Yeah.
It reminds me of an exhibition sort of thing that you're talking about, just anyone paying to get up on stage. I was at a Phil Taylor exhibition night, and you got to bid to have one leg of darts against him. And some idiot paid £600, and it worked out with £50 a dart. But you got the whole experience. You got the walk on, you got the music. You had a girl walk him down. He couldn't throw a dart to save his life, but it's that experience, isn't it? It's doing something you dream of doing, even though you're not good enough.
When I think back, it's probably some of the best years of my life. When you talk about stories, I'm not going to repeat a lot because they can't be repeated. But had the world been as it was then, as it is today, a social media channel of Blackpool with the qualifiers that used to go on at Blackpool during the summer, it would have been like top viewing. It was absolutely crazy, some of the stuff that used to go on, but stuff that I'll never ever forget. It was brilliant.
And who were your heroes that played during the 80s, Joe?
Well, Jimmy White was my one. My first real memory of watching snooker was when he lost the 84 final to Davis.
Yeah.
And so I would have been 10. I would have been 9, coming up to 10 then. So, I picked Jimmy. And I've said before on different interviews I've done, John Higgins and Ronnie O'Sullivan, their favourite player was Steve Davis. Yeah. I think I picked the wrong one. So I think if you pick Steve Davis, you end up winning a lot more tournaments, I think.
Annual heart attack with the Jimmy fan, wasn't it, Joe?
Yeah.
Annual heart attack.
Billy, just quickly, what year was it that you paid for that game of darts?
I'll play against Jockey Wilson, mate. You weren't having Bristow or anyone like that.
I've done some darts once. We was raising money for Help the Heroes. I was playing pool all day, and Martin Adams, because he's like from Cambridgeshire.
Yes, the Wolf.
He was playing. Wolfie. Yeah, he was playing darts, and I had a game with him. I nearly beat him, but I didn't want to. I'm not very good. He weren't having a very good day.
Well, my mum nearly beat Eric Bristow, but she did have a 200 head start. She had a dart, a double top, and missed it, and then Eric Bristow went down on one knee and hit the ball to win the match.
Oh, very good, very good.
Funny stories. So your first final came in 2001, the European Open, which you sadly lost to Matthew Stevens.
Stephen Hendry.
Oh, Stephen, you put the wrong name in this.
I would have beat Matthew Stevens, definitely.
You definitely would have beat Matthew Stevens.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, it should be. Ooh, I will have words after this. So aside of the obvious, talk us through how it felt to be at a final and what could you have done to maybe have won that final instead? Was there anything that you felt you missed out on?
Listen, I'm very much a realist when it comes to my career in snooker, and I don't think there's anything I could have done. He was just too good for me. You know, I'd had a fantastic week. I think Mark Williams was world number 1 at the time, and I beat him in the semi-final. Played my best sort of game. Played really, really well. I had some great wins that week.
Wasn't it, Joe?
No, the final I got slaughtered. No, that was in the World Championship. I beat Williams, but in Malta when I got to my first final, I beat Williams 6-2 in the semi-final. It was a bit of a shock because it was my first ever semi-final, and Williams was world number 1. So that was a big win for me. But I remember that really well, that final, because I remember getting announced, and the guy introduced me like playing my first final, and then he introduced Stephen Hendry playing in something like his 50th or something, or something like that. I remember being like a ridiculous number, and I sort of just was like, wow, this is like, this is like David and Goliath sort of thing. And no, he was just too strong. I was too inexperienced to handle the occasion and everything that comes from being like a champion, and I wasn't ready for that day, but it was a good experience.
Did you feel proper sort of stage fright, or was it mentally tough before you started, would you say?
Yeah, no, a bit of both, really. A bit of everything. And then, obviously, even once that sort of wears away, you've then still got to play. And Stephen Hendry was still, like, a wonderful snooker player at the time. He was still winning tournaments, and he was still, like, regarded as the best player ever then. So, he was hungry. I think he'd gone for him, it's like a barren spell. He'd gone like 18 months without winning the tournament. So he was desperate to win as well. So, it was all against me, and he just played better than me on the day. Sort of his experience showed, and he put me under pressure.
A barren spell of 18 months. A lot of
other
players would love to be able to say that.
It must be horrible, mustn't it?
It's a bit like Newcastle. Jesus Christ. It's like 60 years. So it took you 13 years to win your next title. What was it like having to go that long? Obviously, you just mentioned 18 months as a barren spell. Obviously, 13's a lot longer. Did you ever feel it was never going to happen, or did you always have that self-confidence that you thought everything will fall into place at one point?
Well, I sort of did, but when you keep like having near misses, I won a couple of like minor ranking events out in China. Some strong fields, but because they didn't carry the big prize money, I think I beat Mark Selby in the final of one of them and stuff. So you're not playing against low rank players, you're playing the top players, but it's still not the same. And I had a couple of near misses. I lost to Neil Robertson in a decider in China, and I lost a close one to Ali Carter. So you just think, is it ever going to happen? And conversations, snooker players have conversations, and the snooker fans have conversations. And my name was always thrown in as the best player yet to win a ranking event. And you start thinking about these things every time you get near, you get to quarters and semis, you think, is this my week? And it just weren't happening. But then it all come together. It did. And to be honest, that one I won, it was probably one of the few finals that I probably shouldn't have won. I was 3-0 down and come back and won the decider. So it was a bit weird, really. Maybe him sort of helped me in a way, thinking, I've lost another one. I sort of relaxed and found
you was ahead of Neil. You was ahead of Neil, wasn't you, in that match?
I was, yeah. I was.
He reeled off like a load of frames in a row.
Yeah, I was ahead all the way through, and I think I was 5-3 after the first session, and then I think I got to 8-7 up first to 9, and I remember I didn't really get a shot. He went bang bang, two breaks, one after the other to win 9-8. So again, sometimes you got to just hold your hands up and best man wins. I didn't do anything wrong. He was just too good at the end.
Because Neil's you practice a lot with Neil, don't you? I believe.
Yeah, Neil come over as like a young sort of ginger, skinny Australian kid. He come over as world under-21 champion, but he wasn't great. He wasn't like tipped to do well in the game or anything. And he come over and he was raw. He was good, and he sort of somehow found himself based in Cambridge, I was like there as well, like as a top 16 player. And he literally just picked my brains, and he just badgered me every day. And I would beat him like handsomely every day, like 5-0, 5-1, 5-0 all the time. And when we finished, he'd say, "Are we playing again tomorrow?" And that's literally how he was. And he just improved so quick, and then he's become the player he is today.
All because of you, Joe.
Well, no. I would never take the credit, because I got him so far. Then you've still got to, he's got that Aussie. He has got that Aussie. They talk about Aussie mentality in sport. And you know, his temperament is unbelievable. He's just got a wonderful temperament, and you can't teach that. He's got to give. He's God given that, and he's a hard worker. But I'm probably pretty sure, and he says it himself. You know, a lot of the early stuff was like credit to me, and helped him sort of brought him along quicker. I think he would have got there anyway. All the top players sort of, you know, they're destined. They're going to get there anyway. But maybe it just accelerated his progress. Maybe.
Are you still practicing with him now regularly? Or
we do. We sort of every time we have a game, we say, right, we need to do this more often because we know how like good it is for each other. But you know, I think every walk of life, sort of COVID and the lockdown, sort of like just ruined everything. And we haven't played for a little while, and it's difficult. You know, Neil's schedule's different to mine. You know, he's in tournaments that I'm not in at the moment and stuff like that. So we do try and get to play, but it was nothing like it was. You know, we used to play like 3-4 times a week every week, but we're lucky we play like once a month now.
Yeah, it's a good little point that as well, though. How has COVID affected you and your game and being able to enter tournaments? What's that been like?
Yeah, to be honest, I've not suffered personally because like where we live, it wasn't like, you know, we've got a nice house, nice garden. It's, you know, we're not like overpopulated and stuff like that. So on a personal level, it didn't really affect us, but on like a work level, it did really affect me because I couldn't get to the club. I had a table put in at my house, which obviously helped, but you know, I just didn't enjoy the tour for 2 years. It was just turning up, sitting in your car, waiting to go in, play your game, and out you come. And that's not me. You know, I've always been, my whole career, I've sort of spent in like the players' lounge, you know, in between matches, talking, chatting. If no one was in there, I'd wander out to the arena and watch some matches, you know, to sort of stay involved. And I just stopped enjoying it for 2 years. You know, no one watched, no crowd. It was just, I just couldn't get my head around it, and I sort of suffered as a consequence, really.
It must feel like a practice instead.
You're quite a people person, aren't you? Anyway, Joe, from that point of
view. I think I always have been. You know, I've been involved like just on every level. You know, I've always been played league snooker up until like a few years ago, just because I, you know, just wanted to like the social side of stuff, and I'd always. There's a lot of players they're happy just to get away, sit in a hotel room and watch box set after box set. But I just can't do that. You know, I'd rather be at the venue watching some matches or chatting or whatever, you know, just doing something. And obviously COVID stopped all that from happening. So I found it difficult. I found it really hard to get my head around that I was playing a professional match. I was like driving my car to Milton Keynes, sit in my car, go and play, come back and drive home. It was like, it wasn't like a professional tournament at all.
Did it feel like a practice instead? That's probably the best way to describe it.
It's only once like you lose, then like it dawns on you that I've just lost, you know, quite a big match there, potentially like a big tournament, and it's only after it was over that you realise, you know, what you're actually doing. Well, for me anyway.
Most of it was played at Milton Keynes, wasn't it?
Pretty much everything, yeah. And I think in a way, I don't think that helped me because it was drivable. You know, I've always like gone to matches the night before, prepared properly, stayed at the tournament. If I win my first game, I'll stay there till the end. But I'd literally jump in my car and be there in an hour. So I'd have a match at 2:30, and I'd just get in my car at 11. You know what I mean? It was all totally different, and I just didn't do it properly. I didn't do myself any favours.
One match I remember of you, Joe, was the World Championship 2014 against Ronnie O'Sullivan, where you really had him in your pocket, really, for the first 20 frames, and then suddenly, and Ronnie clicked, didn't he?
Oh, he did. He just played like. I remember that game because I've gone further in the World Championship than that year, but I've always said that was the one real year I actually went there believing I could actually go all the way. You know, even though I've gone further, I never thought my game was strong enough at the time. But I actually believed that year that I was playing as good a snooker as anyone, and I really fancied it. And I was toe to toe with Ronnie, like 4 off the first session, 9-7 after the second. I think I was 11-9 up going into the final session. And I remember potting a blue and knocking a red in, or the white winning off, playing into the pack. Yeah. And he never missed another ball. His pot success in the last 4 frames was 100%. And I never got another shot. And he went on to win I don't know if he won it that year, but it was sickening because I felt I was playing good enough to win it that year. Probably the only time in my career I've actually believed I could actually go there and win it.
Going back before COVID, what was your preparation like? Just talk us through what you actually went through leading up to a World Championship. Like, what did you put in place to feel you were in your best shape?
Yeah, well, normally we'd have like a few tournaments leading up to World Championship, so you'd get, you'd try and do well in them just to get your match game up. But then, like the 2-3 weeks leading up to the actual Crucible, I'd be playing like 6 days a week, probably sometimes 7, but mainly 6 days a week. I'd be probably having competitive, like hard practice matches 3 or 4 of those days with other players that were going to be going to the Crucible as well, like Neil and people like Barry Hawkins, people like that. And then the other 2 days just solely on my own, just working on stuff. And that'd be like 2 or 3 weeks, like solid day in, day out. And that's what you've got to do, really. That's what they all do. Yeah. Everyone, all the top players do it. And it doesn't always work. You can put all them hours in, turn up and play like you've never played, look like you've never played before. But it's just that's sport. That's why we love it. You don't, you can do all the practice you want. You don't ever actually know what you're going to play like. You've got an idea. You give yourself every chance, but you never actually know till you're out there.
What sort of drills would you go through on the table? Like, would you look at like pots along the line, cushion pots all the time, long potting, do you do like combinations or?
Yeah, I think that's where people talk about like why the standard's so good now. And I think a lot of it is to do with like a lot of the practice that everyone does now. It's once upon a time when I remember when I used to practice on my own in like my early career, like 15, 16 years old, we just do what we call a lineup. We put the reds in the middle of the table and you just practice clearing up. But now there's so many routines now that really, really help, like all different variations of the lineup, all different types of ones, different practice drills that they just work and they just make everyone so much better at potting and break building. And I think that's why the standard's gone through the roof.
Joe, what do you make of Ronnie and the fact that, without sort of beating around the bush, he rarely practices and he just chooses individual tournaments to turn up, and he don't look like he hasn't been practicing. He's just, an unreal talent, obviously, just like yourself, from my opinion of a snooker player as well, amateur level. I look at you guys and I think, wow, if I could just be at your level, do you know what I mean? But just to turn up with no practice and just look like you've not been away from the table is just crazy.
Right. Well, I'm gonna destroy the myth, because Ronnie O'Sullivan practices harder than any other snooker player on the circuit, and it's an absolute myth that he doesn't practice. I don't want to talk about Ronnie like without sort of don't want to get him in any trouble. It's not trouble. It's just the truth. Leading up to the World Championships, he rings everyone. Like, he rings me. Can we have a game tomorrow? Like, he'll turn up at Cambridge. We play for like 3-4 hours. And I said to him, "You've been playing?" He said, "I played Bingham yesterday. I'm playing Barry tomorrow. Playing blah, blah, blah." And he plays all the time. When he's not in competitions, when he chooses not to enter competitions, that's not because he doesn't want to play. He's probably doing an exhibition tour somewhere. Like last week, he didn't enter the tour they played last week, but he was doing a tour of somewhere, exhibitions every night of the week. So, Ronnie plays. As natural and as wonderful as he is, you still can't get that level, that hard work. And he does. He puts it in. He's always put it in. Always.
I love it. There's a good question coming in here. So, what's good, guys? I'm guessing you meant how are you doing? Question for Joe: how did you end up with the nicknames the Fen Potter and the Gentleman?
Well, I think the Fen Potter was just come about because the local journalists for our local paper couldn't think of anything better. So it's the Fens and a pot ball. So we quickly got rid of that one, and that's why he never ever made it to the big tabloids. But the Gentleman come about, and Hazel Irvine got me the Gentleman because I never had a nickname. And she used to see me at the venues, and she said that whenever she saw me talk to anyone, or I was always polite, I'd always have time for everyone, interviews, photos, signatures, hold doors open, just general stuff that I think everyone should do. It's not difficult to have nice manners.
I agree.
And she just gave me the nickname the Gentleman. A lot of my peers, my close peers, think it's the most disappropriate name on the circuit, but I tell them this, I don't have to be a gentleman around them.
I can clarify you're a gentleman, Joe, because I'm one of the most annoying people that you've probably ever engaged with in life, and you still entertain me, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
To be honest with you, I don't understand how we put up with his tweets half the time when he comes out with them. So you're a credit to your profession to put up with him. I'm telling you.
I think Joe secretly loves the fact that I get his brother all the time. So that's probably.
I do. I love it. I've actually stopped caring whether Arsenal win or not. I just want Leeds to lose because it just cracks me up.
Oh, don't start them off on Leeds, please.
I'm with you every step of the way there, Jay.
So you're an Arsenal fan and your brother's a Leeds fan?
No, he's an Arsenal fan.
No, he's an Arsenal fan as well.
Yeah, but just right. Some of the banter with the Leeds fans just makes me laugh. I love it.
Oh, it's incredible. The fishing exhibitions that Steve goes on, and he gets them all the time. It's crazy. He's got me a few times being a Newcastle fan as well. So looking through your career, to win your first major at 40 in the 2015 Player Championship final, you must have been incredibly proud of that performance and actually finally winning a major.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a funny sort of tournament, really, because it was a tournament you sort of like, it's now the Players' Championship, and actually the Players' Championship is on next week, but it's different sort of variation. They've just mixed it up a little bit, but it's still the same sort of thing. It's the top 16 players or top 32 players it was then on the season up until that point. So, you get every single top player is in it. I think I beat Ding Junhui in the first round, and in the final I had the winner of Judd Trump and Mark Williams. I beat Stuart Bingham, who was world champion at the time. So, it was a sort of star-studded tournament, and I probably would have been quite way down the betting at the start of the tournament. So it was a big win for me, big scalp, and it sort of come on the back of not really being in great form either. So again, sometimes that can work for you. You go there with limited expectation. You don't put too much pressure on yourself, and things happen. So, but it was a wonderful thing. And the only thing I would change about that whole event would be that it had been somewhere in the UK, so that I could, have the big jamboree with your dad watching, your mum watching, because they're the ones that, you do it for yourself, obviously, but, to make them proud is what it's all about when you start out, and to keep doing that as you get older is nice.
Have you got the trophies? You get to keep them?
Yeah, well, there was a funny thing because there was a bit of a campaign going on because it was the first one I'd won, and there was no trophy presentation because they was in Thailand, and we was literally flying to China the next day to play in the next tournament. So they didn't sort of take the trophy. So they didn't actually present me with a trophy on the day. And then it took quite a while to actually get it, and there was a bit of a campaign. Some of the hardcore snooker fans sort of kept on, and Jason Ferguson, I kept saying to him, you promised me, like getting onto it. And I got it. I got it about 2 years later, but it's proudly in my snooker room.
Jesus, 2 years later.
That's mental.
That's crazy. That is crazy. What sort of doors did that open? Yeah, go on. No, you go on.
No, sorry, on the back of that, they sort of, because I got it, there's a trophy for every tournament, and your name gets engraved on it, and that passes round. But on the back of that, they sort of come up with a new policy where every player that wins a tournament would get a replica trophy, exactly the same thing but slightly taller. So mine's a Waterford Crystal big vase decanter thing. So it's a really nice piece of work. So it was worked out as a bonus, really.
Takes pride of place, I guess.
It does, yeah.
I'm guessing the missus wants lots of flowers in it every now and again as well, does she?
Oh no, it's in my snooker room. There's only one key for that room, and I've got it.
Brilliant. So obviously, when you win your first major as well, obviously it's very different way of for the next year, isn't it? Because you're kind of in the limelight a little bit, aren't you? How did you deal with that? What was it like? What kind of doors did it open for you?
Yeah, it's the way like the snooker rankings work. It's massive to win a big tournament that carries a big first prize because it just sends you up the rankings so high, and then you start getting into other events that are purely based on rankings. So you get into all the invitation events, and all of a sudden you're sort of up there, and it's not just, and also personally, like you just feel great. You're going into tournaments with a different mindset. You're not going there as just one of another snooker player at a tournament. You sort of go there as a champion and a winner, and it just gives you that extra sort of lift. And I think I had a couple of really good, I didn't win anything else, but I had a couple of really like good solid years on the back of that, and sort of established myself at the top of the rankings. And yeah, it really, really helped me.
Brilliant. Have you ever hit a 147? I know you haven't done it in competition. You've been very close. You had a 145. But how many 147s have you got practicing or in tournaments behind the scenes, rather than major tournaments and that?
I couldn't give you an actual number because I don't actually count. I've had lots and lots. It's never been, for some reason, it's never been something that's really bothered me. I think until I had one, I was bothered about it then before I'd had one. And I actually made my first one, believe it or not. This is how sad I was back then and how snooker mad I was. I made one on Boxing Day. That was my first ever 147. I went in my whole life was like spending the snooker club back then. All your mates are in there. And we was bored after Christmas Day. So we was in the snooker club and I made my first ever 147 on Boxing Day. But I've probably had, I don't know, I haven't had lots compared to some players that they really go for them and they count them and they sort of think they mean something, but they only mean something in competition. I'd say I'd had somewhere around about 70, give or take, up a few more, few less. I nearly had 2 on the trot once. I missed the green for 2 on the trot. That's the closest I ever got to 2 on the trot.
Cool.
Damn, that would have been good.
Yeah, that would have been good, yeah.
The one thing I like to go of snooker players, you always hear them on the commentary, he's thinking 4, 5, 6 shots ahead of them. So when you broke and you've potted maybe 1 or 2 reds of the black in there, are you thinking at that point 147?
No, I think I think sometimes it can enter your head. It's probably bad if it does because that's probably the only time you really sort of get nervous at the start of a frame. So the worst thing you can do is start thinking 147 when you're on 9 because you just ramp up the pressure for yourself. But I think snooker players in general, for the most part, will be thinking 1 or 2 shots ahead. It's only in certain situations, if like there's a red next to the black, you need to move that red away to give yourself a chance. You might spot a red that's going to give you access to that other red. So then you might be like 4 or 5 shots. But in general, you're sort of 2 shots ahead.
Right. Very interesting.
Do you practice safety play, Joe?
There's a few drills you can do. Like with just general safety play, like thin edges off the side of packs and stuff like that. There's lots of them you can do. But I think to determine a really good safety player, someone like Mark Selby or John Higgins, it's how clever you are and how like imaginative you are when there's like a couple of balls left, like just on the colours. When the balls are in situations that you could never sort of dream up in practice, they just happen to appear that way. And then they're the best safety players, the ones that are really creative and clever with their safety. And that's what separates, because these young kids now, they just cue so straight and they can hit thin edges, balls on cushions, no problem, get the white back to the cushion. That's not difficult for them. It's when you have to really think about something, try and put your opponent in trouble with a clever shot. That's where their inexperience lets them down.
Yeah, so you'd be a bit of your in-game management, basically.
Yeah,
experience.
That comes with experience, and years and years of being in them positions. We went to China once, to help their sort of young academy students. And I think most of them have turned professional now, so they was very, very good. But we got there and there was like 4 established players: myself, Graham Dott, Mark Davis, and Barry Hawkins. And we played 4 of their top students for a week to help them practice. And we all sat out on the Monday morning and we sort of broke off, and then we all looked at each other, and they did a scoreboard. And we sort of said, well, where's the scoreboard? And they said, oh, we don't keep score. We just like whoever makes the biggest break wins. And we said, no, that's not how we do it. You're not going to learn nothing like that. We can all make 50 breaks. It's when there's a few balls left. That's when you're going to get any benefit from playing us. So it was interesting to see how they sort of work as young kids and students.
Yeah,
do you spend time outside the table when you're not on the table, concentrating on the mental side of the game? Because I know quite a few players see specific people, spend sessions with those people to try and train their minds. I'm interested to see if that's the sort of thing you do, Joe.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really do it so much now. I think my sort of whole outlook on snooker's changed since the lockdown. I've definitely lost a bit of like impetus with it all and everything. But when I think about when I was like really like big on it and into it and loving it, I went to see a few people, different, like you get recommended these sports coaches, sports psychologists, and I'll be honest, it never really stuck with me. I never really got anything out of it until I went to see Terry Griffiths, who was a former world champion. Like, he knew his snooker. And then for some reason, I don't know what it was, maybe because I just respected his opinion because I knew he'd been there and he could like really understand when I sort of said the things that affect me like mentally during a snooker match, he could actually give me proper answers. Whereas a sports psychologist, as educated as they are, they're only telling me what they've learned from a book and stuff, you know. I could really like resonate with Terry. And I think I was with Terry from about 2012 to about 2016, 17, probably my best years as a professional. So it definitely helps. You know, it's a tough game mentally. And if you've got someone in your corner, like giving you the right advice and helping you, makes a big difference.
He was granite tough, Terry, when he played. I can remember watching him play many, many times. I remember him after winning the World Championship. Him v Thorbo with some battles.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions from a couple of people off of Twitter. The first one is, sorry, my dog is desperate to make an appearance on here. For God's sake. So the first one is, what players do you love playing, or is there any particular player you loved playing and you felt really confident? And equally, was there any players that when you drew them in a tournament, you just thought, oh, here we go again, kind of thing?
Ronnie.
Yeah, well, no, I won't say the obvious because it's obvious. Like you don't want to play Ronnie. You do want. Actually, the thing is, you do want to play Ronnie because it is such a special occasion, you know, and it is the best occasion. The crowd are at their most manic, and the atmosphere is like the most electric. So you do want to play him, but then again, you don't because he's just so good. So I won't give like the obvious answers, but a player I always enjoyed playing, I had a tremendous record against him, was Robert Milkins. And another one was Graham Dott. For some reason, you know, and I think they're both amazing players. You know, Graham Dott's former world champion, nothing but respect for him. But for some reason, his game just really matched up to mine, and I sort of really always felt I was going to get the better of him, and just enjoyed playing him. But the one player I hated playing, and if I ever got drew against him, was Marco Fu. I just couldn't play him because I think because he was so like poker faced. Even when I played well and like sort of threw like everything at him and was in charge and winning, you could never tell. And he used to really annoy me. I wanted him to sort of like show out and get annoyed and think, oh, he's got me. But could never get anything out of him. And he just, a couple of times, he absolutely buried me, like proper mashed me up. And it was just horrible.
Oh, no.
Next question I got, the second one I've got is a guy called Martin Yaps messaged me. He said, I think it was last season, Joe admitted, and it was documented that he'd said he had a poor season and he would have to make some changes to get back where he wanted to be. He's interested to understand whether you've made those changes and if you're back happy with your snooker now.
The changes I decided to make was I basically spent 12 months playing on my own in my own snooker room, and it didn't really help because I wasn't getting in the club playing other players. So the change was going to be to get to the club more and like, you know, proper practice with people like Neil Robertson and stuff like that. I did try. I tried to do it, but just circumstances didn't permit, you know, the club that's not open until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And, you know, I like to be home by 4. So it just didn't really work. But I made an effort to get out and about and play more players. And I feel like I'm playing well, but I think snooker is such a tough game. You know, you get on a bad run, you lose a few games, every game then becomes massive. But I think I'm playing better than I was when I like put that tweet out at the end of that season. It just sometimes it takes a little while for the hard work you put in to come through in your results.
Are you being a bit more choosy about what tournaments you play in now, or is there specific setups that you're trying to get involved with from that point of view?
Not really, because the tournaments have been like so spread out and so far apart. You can't really, like where I am at the rankings, you can't really afford to miss any, you know. And so I always try and like proper support the tour. You know, I don't think anyone should be a professional snooker player. It's a privileged position. There's 128 spaces, and to take one up and then not play when I know there's so many like wanted kids out there, like young up and coming players that would love to be a professional, and you know, to have that opportunity and then not take it is something I've never wanted to do. So I try and plan everything if I can, and I'll continue to do that until such time as I'm not allowed anymore.
Going back to the mental side of things, it's always a question I've wanted to ask a snooker player. What's it like sitting in that chair and not getting out of it? What is going through your head at that time? Is it, am I ever going to get back to the table again, or did you go off in your own little world?
It's mad, honestly. There's no one answer. Sometimes I'll sit in my chair and I'll be thinking, please don't miss, because I don't want to come back to the table and make a fool of myself again. Just clear them all up, and then I can tell everyone that I never had a chance. Other times you're just chomping at the bit to get back there and get out and express yourself. Other times you want to pick up an ice cube and throw it at him. Other times you just, other times you're just sitting in your chair, chilled, just like confident, feeling good. It really is like on the day. It's especially if you're like that sort of character like I am. I never know if I'm going to be nervous, if I'm going to be cool, if I'm going to be like agitated, if I'm going to be just chill. I never really know until things start happening. So there's not one answer. It's just on the day really. Especially if things you're playing well and that you're just chomping at the bit to get out your chair and get out there. And sometimes, like I say, sometimes you just want to just pack up and go home.
What's your opinion on the miss rule, Joe? Do you think it's a bit harsh? And sometimes you miss by 1/8 of an inch or a couple of mil, and you call a miss for it.
I think it's a tough one. I've just actually been promoted to be the professional on the rules committee, like along with the referees.
Oh, well done.
And we're waiting to have like our first meeting because there's a couple of things I'm going to put forward, but I'm sure the referees will just say no, you can't do that, and that's fine. They'll give me a logical reason. I think the miss rule. The players are so good now. I think it has to basically be just a blanket. If you don't hit it, it's a miss. I think that's the only way we're going to do it because players are good enough now to miss by fractions. You go back to that the famous world final with Dennis Taylor and Steve Davis. If the miss rule was in play then, Dennis Taylor wouldn't have been wagging his finger at the end. It would have all been finished on like the yellow or something, But that's the way it was then. I think there's some things we could tweak with it. I don't think you should be able to get like 30 or 40 points in foul shots from one snooker because that's not the reason you lay a snooker. You lay a snooker to get an opportunity. So I think maybe there's a tweak there. Maybe you could just give a limit to how many points you give away. Keep making them play the shot again, but only get rewarded points for like the first 4 times you miss it or something, and then it's up to you then if you want to just take the shot again or you just keep taking no points.
Do you think, because obviously in every other sport it seems, in hockey, cricket, tennis, football now, rugby, those sort of mainstream sports, snooker's become a lot more prominent in terms of a sport. Do you think there'll be some kind of VAR element at some point?
Possibly. They sort of tinkered with some stuff. They had the what was it? They've done it for the cricket Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with snooker though. They had the Hawkeye where when on the odd occasion like you play a miss and there's about 20 balls move, you can't possibly know where they all are. So they had Hawkeye that could like freeze frame it and put them all back. But it's I think you need like them sort of VAR things for the fast moving sports. The all action sort of stuff. I don't think it's hard to sort of make snooker any better really, apart from like the standards and just get the crowd interacting, not like they do in darts, but like they do at the Masters. That is an incredible atmosphere, and if you can sort of try and create that everywhere, then I think that will really help snooker.
What about the shootout, Joe?
It's different.
Did you take the shootout? Can't we with it?
No. I appreciate the shootout. I've always, from the first few years we played the shootout, it was a top 64 event, no ranking points. It was great fun. The ironic thing is, when it was top 64 event, basically the whole top 64 entered it. Now it's a ranking event. You get like 3 players in the top 16 enter it because the top ones, they're not interested. So it was a dangling carrot for them players outside the 64. They wanted to get in the shootout. So it sort of had an adverse effect really on the benefit of it. So I'm all for it. I think it gives snooker a bit of a different image for a weekend or 4 or 5 days, whatever it is. Possibly bring some new fans in, but I think it just carries too much importance. You're getting as much points, prize money for winning the shootout than you do for getting to the final of a major ranking event, and that can't be right.
No,
that's a bit odd, that one, for sure.
Yeah,
very strange. So your career spanned over 30 years and you're still competing at the age of 48. What is your best moment and why out of your whole career?
I think winning has to be like your best moment. Winning the ranking event was my best. I think very close to winning. I did win a match, but it wasn't like a tournament. It was my debut at the Crucible. I beat Steve Davis 10-9 on the black for my debut, and I've got the picture in my snooker room of me, like my hands up in the air. Davis is in the corner, dejected after I potted the black. It's a wonderful picture. And I've got my hands up in the air because at the Crucible, you've got balconies around the side where your guests and family sit. Yeah. And I remember I potted the black and I looked up and my dad I thought he was going to fall off the balcony. He was like hanging over. He was just so happy. And that was probably like the best moment. You know, it was like everything he'd given me. Like he sacrificed everything when I was a kid. And then I sort of give it all back in that one moment. You know, it was amazing. And I think that will, with only being like the last 32 of the tournament, I think that will probably be one of the best highlights of my career.
Quite a random question, Joe. Like obviously in football they swap shirts and stuff like that. Merchandise.
Do you swap cues?
Does anything like that happen in snooker? Do you get hold of anything? Do you get things autographed or whatever when you beat people like Steve Davis and stuff like that? Or is it?
No, to be honest, we don't. And it's now you've mentioned it, like it's probably a really good idea. You know, should have maybe done stuff like that. I think when you get to a final, they have like the pre-match photos with the trophy, and you know, when I played in the Masters final against Ronnie, you know, I've got I haven't got it on my wall because I just don't like the picture, but you know, you're standing at the front of the table with the Masters trophy, me and Ronnie, you know, it's a big moment in your career. You know, if you're not like a serial winner like a Neil or a Ding or Higgins or someone, you know, to play Ronnie in the final of the Masters is a massive moment. And you know, it's things like that. You get the pictures from the press; they give you the pictures and everything they've taken, but I think really personal, and probably something I should have maybe. I wish you told me that about 20 years ago. I would have had quite a nice few items now.
You've not nicked a few balls from the tables or anything like that?
Quite a quirky question to have asked, but I just wondered, you know.
Yeah, no, it's a good one actually. Yeah, it's something I wish I'd done, especially now. Like I've got a snooker room, it would have had some quite good stuff in there.
I bet you've never been asked that question before by anyone, Joe.
No, so it's a new one. Yeah.
How about the commentary, Joe? Are you going to carry on doing that for BBC?
Yeah, I'd like to. It's a tough gig to get on. You know, I think when I've done it, I sort of get good feedback. I seem to get a lot of positive feedback from it. I seem to have like one of them voices or say the things that people want to hear. So I think it's gone well, but it's tough to get in. You know, they like their former world champions on that sofa and stuff like that. So I keep doing it. You know, every time they ask me, I say yeah, and I think I sort of do all right. So it's something I'd like to get into afterwards. I've just started like doing a bit of coaching because I thought I might enjoy it. I thought I'd try it, see if I liked it, and to be honest, I like it probably way more than I should do, or way more than I thought I would. So it might be something I sort of look to sort of really push when my snooker starts to sort of competitively fall away. To sort of get quite a lot of enjoyment out of that. Really, I didn't think I would, but I do. So if I could maybe get something like that going, you know, there's still options to sort of get on the snooker board one day and see if we can sort of make a difference. And yeah, I think so. Whatever I do, I think it will be snooker related.
I play league snooker, and you mentioned that you still play league snooker. Who do you play for locally then?
Well, I haven't played for a little while because they sort of had a handicap committee meeting at the start of the season. They basically made it impossible for me to win. So I said, look, I'm happy to come and play and support the league, but I'm not going to turn up every week and give, you know, good players
148 start.
Yeah, it's pointless. And the thing was, when I'd done it on the odd week, I said to them, look, no one gets any enjoyment out of it. If I win, that the person I'm playing doesn't pot a ball, and if I lose, there's still like 10 reds left. So they're not even. Whoever's coming out to play me is not really getting an evening snooker. So I said I'll just give it a miss till they sort of wise up a little bit. But no, the local Chatter's Conservative Club, my dad plays for them. Unfortunately, it's the only sort of club in town now that's got any snooker tables. They used to have like the Workingmen's Club and another club, but that's the only club now that's got snooker tables. So they sort of play their league matches out of there. But no, I played league snooker from the age of about 15, like 3-4 nights a week years ago when I was younger.
Yeah, I played 2 weeks ago. Obviously with COVID and the way that things have panned out, I said it's too much for me because I still play or was playing in the Maidstone League, and it's an hour and a half from where I live now. So it's too much for me. But I said I'd help them out because my mate died, unfortunately. He was part of the team. So I went up there and I literally didn't miss a ball, and the player I played against was absolutely fuming and refused to shake my hand. But I was just like, it's like I hadn't been away from the table. I do love it, so I was just interested to see, how often you took part.
It always amazes me, like when I pop up there, because I've got like mates that still play, play for years, and I pop up another pint with them if I've got no like tournaments coming up. And it's always amazing. As I've got better at snooker, like I noticed it more, like, because obviously the professional, to me, that's what's like is all about. That's what's important. But you sort of look back and reflect on how serious they take it, and they fall out and they're ringing the secretary of the league and they're just complaining non-stop, and they just take it so serious. It's not until like you move away from that level, like go up a few levels, you can sort of look back and think, wow, you've just got to chill out, mate. It's just a couple of frames of snooker on a Thursday night. Calm down.
It's no different in the Maidstone League, trust me, Joe.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, all the same.
Jesus. Going back to the coaching side of things, so obviously you're going to enjoy that. Do you have any prodigies coming through, a bit like Phil Taylor had with Adrian Lewis? Do you have anyone that you're coaching at the moment who you think, oh yeah, he's going to make it?
Well, I've only literally I put an advert out just after just before Christmas, and like sort of just because I didn't want to like really go mad on it, because I'm still sort of practicing most days.
Yeah.
But I had quite a bit of response, and there's a couple of young lads that have come over, and they're raw, and it's difficult. You see the odd one. I've been to play someone today in Harlow. I'm not like coaching them or anything, but I've practiced with them quite a few times, and you can spot them sometimes. They don't necessarily it doesn't like hit you like a ton of bricks when you first see them, but you can just sort of spot something. I've seen it before. I've been asked to go and look at a couple of kids, and like one of them is like the best one of the two. He's making 100 breaks, yet I'll come away knowing full well that the other one, whose highest break is like 60, will go on to be a much better player just by the way they hit the ball, the way they time in, the way they deliver the cue and stuff. So it's hard to sort of spot. It's not hard to spot the talent. It's just a tough game. I had someone in my room the other night for 2 or 3 hours, a young lad. He lives about an hour away, and he went away like sort of a bit dejected because I think sometimes they get told. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hard on them. I'm not nasty, but they sort of it's a bit of a reality check sometimes. When they come and play someone that's better than them, a lot better than them, they think they're going to be world champion, and they've got a lot to learn. But that's what I want. I'd love to get someone like that, who's really keen and sort of just nurture them a little bit. Obviously Neil was a bit different. He was already professional and he was world junior champion, but something similar to that would be great. Yeah.
Do snooker players have managers? And if they do, is that something that you're thinking, like with this coaching aspect, you could find some talent and be their managers kind of thing?
I don't think that's me. I'd rather be like a sort of coach,
mentor sort of thing.
The word, isn't it? Yeah, someone like that. I've had managers, and I don't think that's me. It's very different. Like when you're a manager, you're sort of in it for the money, and you try and sort of. Well, I had a couple of managers and sort of just milk you for every penny they can get out of you. They got no sort of love towards you or anything. Whereas if I could get a young kid that was just wanting to be a professional and he'd give everything he could, if I could see he was really applying himself and had the dedication, then I wouldn't want nothing out of it. What I'd get out of it is seeing him do well, and I'd sort of get a lot of credit out of that.
Very interesting. Bit of a personal question, if you don't mind. Obviously, you've got a bit of a condition, arthritis in the back, I think. Is that right? How is that affecting your play? It's
called ankylosing spondylitis. I got diagnosed quite a few years ago. I was just in agony. And I thought it was like sciatica, and I thought it was all sorts of things. And then I couldn't take it anymore. I remember coming back from Australia on a plane, and we stopped at Singapore, and I literally couldn't get off the seat, and I had to get off and sit in the airport for a couple of hours. I literally couldn't get up. I had to call my snooker pal Jerry Green to come and put my shoes on for me before I could play a match, because I couldn't bend over to put my shoes on.
Wow.
So I thought I've got to get this checked out, and come back with that, and it's an incurable disease, but it's manageable. You can sort of, if you do your daily stretches and stuff, you can sort of keep it at bay. So it affected. All them things are good for it. I do as much as I should, but I've sort of learnt to manage it. I should do it regularly every day, but what I do, I sort of, as soon as I get the first inkling of like pain, I'll then spend like 20 minutes, half hour every day for the next fortnight just to get rid of it again, So I probably should do more, but it affected me a lot more before I knew what it was, before I knew how to manage it.
Does it come in waves, Joe?
Yeah, the one thing it does really affect is like my sleep. I very rarely sleep for more than like 4 hours. I'll get back to sleep sometimes, but I very rarely have like 5 hours straight sleep because my back tightens up if I don't move, and then I wake up in pain most days. But it's just become normal. I forgot what it's like to not have a bad back, so it's just part of me now.
Oh, I hear you, brother. My back is terrible.
And mine.
Yeah. Oh God, that's not the chair. That's my knees. The bit of a question. Obviously, you are getting onto a tender age in a way. A lot of snooker players I've seen in the past, like Steve Davis, that seem to prolong their career maybe a bit too long than what they should have. Do you have a time where you think, this is when I'm going to stop? Or are you going to just go out for as long as you can and enjoy it for as long as you can?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been, since like COVID and everything, this is the least I've enjoyed snooker. I obviously still love it because I'm happy. Like when people ring up to book lessons, and I'm doing hours of coaching and like enjoying that. I'll talk about it on camera, commentary all day, every day. So I do love it, but it's just that the desire to go and practice 4 or 5 hours a day now to sort of get yourself at the level you need to be to compete is gradually like dwindling away. And I've always said, whether I stick to it or not, I've always said that once you drop out the top 64, you have to go to what is called like Q school to regain your tour card. And I've always said, if I drop into that zone, then for me, that means I'm not good enough to compete anymore because I've never been outside the top 30, since I got good. So if I drop down to that level, but then if that day comes, I might have to rethink because I might not want to give up. I might want to think, right, sorry, I'm gonna get back and I'm gonna prove to everyone that I can get back up the rankings again. I don't know, but I've sort of stated that I wouldn't go to Q school, but that was when I had no idea Q school was like potentially around the corner. So we'll see. But
where
at the
are you
moment,
now?
I think I'm only about 30, 31, something like that. But on the back of like, it only takes 2 bad years to go from like I was number 17 like 18 months ago. So it only takes 2 consecutive bad years and you drop like a stone. So I'll need to sort of do well back end of this season or have a good year next year. But we'll see. One thing I don't do anymore is like fret about it. I'll work as hard as I think I need to. And then if it's not good enough, then so be it.
The fact that you're at that number, and it's like obviously without coming across from way at the age that you are, it's a bloody good effort to be at that ranking. Given what's sort of happened of late as well, and COVID has affected everyone. You've got to give yourself a pat on the back for that.
Oh yeah, no, I think I chat to other players, and a player that I sort of talk to a lot is a couple like Mark King. We've sort of grew up together. Well, I remember like seeing Mark King at an under-16s event when we were both 12. So our careers have been pretty similar, and we're both on like the same sort of path. Graham Dott's another one. There's only a few guys that win lots of tournaments. And we all know who they are. But people like me and Mark and Graham, we've won a couple of tournaments in our whole career, which it doesn't sound a lot, but it just shows how hard it is to do. And for us to still be up there, we are. I am quite proud that without being like a serial winner, I've sort of hung around the top 20 in the world for basically 20 years. It's every now and then you need to like just like you say, just give yourself a bit of credit. It's easy just to let these things go by and just take them for granted. But I look at there's lots of players out there that when you see them tweeting about the Masters and they say, "Oh, I'd love to play there," and then you think, "Oh, I've played there loads of times. I played there when I was like 24." But it's easy to forget that sort of stuff. You just take it for granted. But there's lots and lots of great snooker players that never ever get to play at the Masters, and sometimes you need a little bit of a reminder.
It's also worth noting that when people draw you in the tournaments, they're not going to have an easy match by any stretch. you've made it really tough for people to beat you. I mean, you've had a few. Everyone has bad defeats, of course, naturally. But every time I've watched you, and I watch snooker all the time as well, when someone takes you in the tournament, it's not where they can just turn up and they'll roll you over.
No, that's one thing I will be able to hold my head up high when I walk away from snooker, is that sometimes my best isn't good enough, but I know that I've always given my best. I don't think I've ever turned up for a tournament unprepared, like had a few drinks the night before. I don't like miss a few balls at the beginning and think, oh, sorry, I don't care today. I've always, even if like I've played awful and I've lost 5-0, I've always tried. Like I've tried my best, and that's something that I can walk away from knowing that there's nothing else I could have given. If what I'd give only got me so far, then so be it. I couldn't give any more.
If you could put your finger on it, on one minuscule detail that makes you a top player to a top 30 player to into the top 10, what would that be if you could bottle it up and give it to someone?
Self-belief.
Right.
I think
so not talent, not queuing or anything like that, just your actual mental side of it.
Because every snooker player that gets somewhere up in the top 50, 60 in the world is super talented. There's other stuff, temperament, the ability to perform under pressure and keep a clear head, and the self-belief is massive. And some people have got that self-belief. Other people like myself, I'd need to win. I used to get people when I was younger. I was good. I was really good. I was winning lots of tournaments, prime level, and people saying, "Oh, you're gonna be world champion, you're gonna be world champion." And I just think, well, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But there's other players that you tell them that and they go, "Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm going to be world champion." And I ain't got a hope in hell's chance. They'll never be world champion. But they would believe it, and they go back in the self-belief, and it's all you need it. You do need it because it's so easy just to get yourself down. Demons come into your head when you're missing a few, and it's all in the mind. So having a strong mindset is so important at sport at the highest level.
Amazing. Right, let's step away from snooker for the last 5 minutes and just ask you a couple of personal questions, if you don't mind. Why Arsenal?
Arsenal, because I was brought up I was born in St John's Wood, North London.
Right.
And I went to a little primary school, and on sports day, they had a football match. Half the class had to wear Tottenham kits and half had to wear Arsenal. And I just happened to be given the Arsenal kit. And I am so grateful for that teacher who put me on the Arsenal team, because it was literally like 50-50. And I was Arsenal from that day onwards.
Do you have a big love for football, or is snooker just the massive love?
Yeah, no, I played a little bit of football. I was never any good. I played a little Sunday league side, played five-a-side, with the boys, like Tuesday nights or whatever it was. I could play a little bit, but I've always liked watching it. I used to go to Highbury a lot when I lived in London. My best friend's dad had season ticket, so we used to go quite a bit. We used to go all around the London grounds and stuff. So I followed it quite big, and I've just followed it mainly on TV. Occasionally we get to go to a few matches, but I'm mainly a TV fan. But I've always followed it. I've always been quite a keen fan. That'd be my next. For TV sport, I would always choose football.
I mean, Arsenal's expensive to go to, let's face it. It's almost as bad as Chelsea.
I've been lucky. The last few times I've been, I ain't had to pay. So I can't really moan about the prices.
What was
name dropping
in those days, Joe? Was you ball boy?
Them days, yeah. Just steward.
I love it. What do you make of Arteta? He's obviously turned it around a bit. Obviously, sending the Aubameyang out.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. He seems like a bit of a hard taskmaster to me. I'm not sure. I think who knows? He's
bringing the youngsters through, though.
He is bringing the youngsters through, and he's doing a good job, really. When you look at the squad and what he's got, I don't think top 4 that would be a miracle. I think top 6 is realistic. If he doesn't meet that this year, then I think they've got to ask questions. But I think give him one more window. He seems to have got rid of all the rubbish and expensive wages that he didn't want. So, I think give him one more window and then give him till Christmas and see how he's doing. If not, then it might be time to bring someone else in.
Do you find it hard to stomach the fact that Ben White used to play for Leeds?
Well, he was only on loan at Leeds, wasn't he? So I don't really see it like that. And he's actually surprised me. I thought they was like going a bit heavy with the price tag, but I think he's been amazing. Really, he's been one of our best players this season.
Do you think you can keep hold of Saka?
Yeah, I think we do. I think we can. I think he's, I think they say once a gooner, always a gooner, and I think he's. I know Ashley Cole destroyed that myth. I can't stand him. but no, I think. I don't think you should ever hold anyone back. If Arsenal don't make progress and we're not in Champions League, the boy is a superstar. If he's not getting Champions League football in a couple of years, then I won't have no problems with him cashing in because someone like him, he needs to at the end of the day, sport is your career. You can have a love for a team and whatever, but he's got the world at his feet, that kid, and for him just to be loyal to Arsenal and never win nothing just doesn't seem fair to me.
What's missing at Arsenal then? What do you need to get to top 4?
Well, I think we need a midfielder that doesn't get sent off every game. And
that would help.
I think we need a striker that. We had one that scored goals, but he couldn't turn up on time. So we need a good striker whose watch is set at the right time.
I'm surprised Chaka's still there with you. I thought he was dead and buried when we drew 2-2 with you. And the crowd were obviously going into him as he went off. I thought that's it. He's done. He's never playing for Arsenal again. I was really shocked that he stayed.
No, I didn't. And he's one of them sort of players. You watch him and you think, well, surely there's better out there than Xhaka. There's nothing special, but he's one of them players. I don't know. It's just like team sport. When he plays, we seem to do better. And he's always the one that's going to do the headless chicken tackle and cost us a game, but. For the most part, his stats tell us that when he plays, we're better. So, it's a strange one.
You just need his agent to offer him to Newcastle. They'll probably pay 50, 60 million for him.
Yeah, he can go for that. No problem. He can go for half.
Don't worry. In 2 years' time, Saka's got a home up northeast if he wants it.
It's going to be fun, actually, isn't it? It's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be another one of the rides. Like for me, there's a couple of teams I just can't stand. I hate Chelsea. I hate Tottenham and I hate Man United, but it doesn't bother me Man City winning everything. It really doesn't, and I quite enjoy it when they buy all these mega £1 million players and they just beat Man United out of sight. And Chelsea, I love it, and I think I'll be the same with Newcastle. I'll actually enjoy watching them tear them apart.
I think it's just nice to see someone else do something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so because they've had it. It's just I don't know what it is. Newcastle are going to spend millions. Man City spent millions, but it doesn't bother me. Just when Chelsea done it, it just really annoyed me.
Yeah, signing thingy from Burnley with a 43 million outlay for a 30-year-old and his wages and signing on fee.
25 million.
Yeah,
25 million.
And his wages.
There's going to be a few. There's going to be a few that really benefit from the money that's up there, but. I really, truly hope they stay in the league. I want them to stay in, and I want to see what happens up there because I think everyone's got a little soft spot for Newcastle from back in the the Espria days and Ginola and stuff like that. It was great to watch. So.
14 years under the guise of Mike Ashley. You got to feel sorry from that point of view.
Absolutely.
So do you think you'll get this kiddie from Fiorentina because they're resting all the hopes on that is it Vlahovic, isn't it, or something?
No, he's gone to Juventus.
Has he joined Juventus? I didn't realise.
He joined, yeah. No, I think that's where his heart was. He wanted to go to Juventus, and he's got his move. I think I've read a few things. They're looking at. They want Calvert-Lewin, but I don't know if he's the answer. He looks good when he's good. I don't know. I think there's probably better out there than him, but
he's great.
I think that's where they're going to look to go in the summer, but obviously that depends on how Everton finish. They might want to be part of the Lampard project. I don't know, but that's what the rumours are now. Calvert-Lewin, I think he's trying. He's got a very strong English nucleus. He's got building there, so you never know.
Yeah, we were interested in Calvert-Lewin in January, apparently. But
you were interested in everyone.
Well, this is true. Everyone's been thrown out where, to be fair, and God knows what's going to hit the wall and stick at some point. But I don't know about Calvert-Lewin or not. And
there wasn't a player sleep even at League Two level.
Yeah.
I was disappointed Newcastle signed that Brazilian though, because Arsenal was been linked with him for the last two windows, and we've been saying like they've all been talking about how good he is and like he'd be perfect for Arsenal, and then he didn't even seem to pay that much money for him really for his age. Just like quite a decent
33 million,
really. Yeah, and if he's as good as they say, then that's a bargain.
Yeah, he's going to transform our midfield. He looks very, very good.
Well, we was delighted when you took Willock off our hands for 25 million.
Yeah,
couldn't get in there quick enough.
He's not turned out to be the player one expected.
Should have just had him on loan. He was brilliant. He was brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
He was, yeah.
6 months. He was fantastic. Yeah. I always said if we can get half of what he brought for that 6 months, we'll still have a great player on our hands, and he's brought none of it. So
perhaps half this 6 months, Baz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he could be. He could be one of those guys who has a crap first season and then like 6 months and then has a great second half of the season.
He's done it for Arsenal. we kept looking at him thinking, oh, this kid's good. He's good. He comes on has like a good 20 minutes, but then you start him and he got hooked every game when he started. Like after 60 minutes, he's done nothing.
Joe, when can we see you next on the TV screens? Where are you playing next?
What have I got coming up? We've got these qualifiers. Next 2 lots of qualifiers coming up. They're not televised, and then I got through. This is where the whole like tour's crazy. Got through in the European Open, which was due to be in Germany. It's been moved to, you guessed it, Milton Keynes. Yeah. But I qualified for that in October, and I play the next round of that tournament on February the 21st. So that'll be the next time on TV, and then hopefully there's a couple of other little smaller ones between then, and then hopefully get through in the World Championship and have a good end to the season.
Amazing,
brilliant.
Any other questions, guys? We've had them for quite a while, and I'm obviously cautious of time. Unless there's any other burning questions, we're all good. Brilliant, Joe. Thank you very much for your company tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing what it's like being a snooker
player.
It's
fun.
I used to play when I was younger, and 34 was probably my highest break, and that was when I was playing about 5 times a week, and then I just start playing again.
If you're interested, I'm doing lessons.
It'll cost me a fortune.
Mate, I'll give you a shout and arrange a meet up. We'll have a pint and then I'll.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you'll do that. Get my brother out and enjoy that.
Yeah, legend. It'd be good to meet Arch as well.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, no, you've seen the best of him. You don't want to see him in real life. You're best when you see him like that.
Fantastic. Well, we wish you well for the rest of the season, mate. I hope it really goes well for you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Lovely.
I'll pop these in the background and I'll be 30 seconds to finish up.
Thanks again, Joe.
There we go. Joe, what a guy. Absolutely amazing listening what it's been like to be a snooker player and hear about all the stuff behind the scenes. Catch us on Saturday at 6 p.m. We're going to do a live watch along for the Watford-Burnley game because we're very interested in that, obviously, with it being the bottom of the table clash. Hoping for a draw. But from the World of Sport TV, I've been Barry, your host. Have a great night.